My name is Kathy Coleman. I'm 37 years old, and I live in a small town just outside Fort Collins, Colorado. The kind of town where people wave at each other in the grocery store, even when they don't remember your name. Mountains on one side, wide open sky on the other. It's quiet. It's ordinary. For a long time, ordinary was exactly what I wanted. I need to tell you what happened to me, because I still don't fully understand it myself. And maybe if I say it out loud, all the way through, from the beginning to the end, it will finally start to make sense. Or maybe it never will, but I have to try.
Hey, welcome back to the channel. The story you're about to hear is one of those quiet ones that stays with you. It starts with a simple act of kindness, and it slowly turns into something none of us would see coming. It's about trust, about the people we let closest to us, and about how the deepest wounds almost always come from the people we'd never suspect. Before we start, I'll be real with you. The channel's been going through a rough patch lately, and something as small as a like or a quick comment genuinely helps more than you know. It takes you 2 seconds, and it keeps stories like this one going. So if you can, drop a like, tell me down in the comments where you're watching from, and let's get into it.
I've been married to my husband, Robert, for a little over 5 years. He's 40. We're not rich and we're not poor. We're the people you drive past and never think about twice. I work the front desk at a dental office in town. Insurance, scheduling, reminder calls, all of it. Robert is a shift supervisor at a distribution warehouse about 20 minutes down the highway. We both leave the house before 8 in the morning. We both come home tired. On Fridays, we get the same pizza from the same place. On Sundays, we do laundry and groceries and promise each other we'll finally clean out the garage. That was our life, and I loved it. I really did. The only thing missing was a baby. I've wanted to be a mother for as long as I can remember. Not in some dramatic way, just a quiet, steady want that never went away. When Robert and I got married, I thought that was the plan. I thought we were on the same page. But every time I brought it up, he had a reason to wait. First, it was money. Then it was his hours at work. Then it was that we should enjoy being just the two of us a little longer. And lately, the reason had changed into something that stung more than the others. He started saying we were getting too old, that maybe we'd missed our window, that maybe it just wasn't in the cards for us. I'm 37, not 70. But he'd say it in this soft, almost sad voice, like he was letting me down gently, and I never knew how to argue with it. So I'd let it go. I'd swallow it. I told myself he'd come around eventually. I told myself a lot of things back then. Now let me tell you about Monica. Monica Hayes was my best friend. Not a work friend, not a someone I grab coffee with twice a year friend. My oldest friend in the world. We met when we were 7, in the second grade, when her family moved on to my street. She had a little gap between her front teeth, and she talked too fast, and she made me laugh until my stomach hurt. We grew up side by side. Sleepovers, first heartbreaks, terrible haircuts, all of it. When my dad passed away, when I was 19, Monica sat with me on the bathroom floor for 3 hours and didn't say a single word. She just held my hand. That's the kind of friend she was. Life pulled us in different directions the way it does, but she'd landed back in Colorado a few years ago, a couple hours south of us. We stayed close. We texted almost every day. She was in my wedding. She was the person I called when something good happened, and the person I called when something fell apart. She knew everything about me, every hope, every fear. She knew how badly I wanted that baby, because I'd cried to her about it more times than I could count. So when Monica started struggling, I paid attention. It came out slowly, the way these things do. A comment here, a joke there, always brushed off with a laugh. But over a few months, I put it together. She'd lost her job. She'd gotten behind. There were credit cards, and then loans to cover the credit cards, and then the collection calls. She'd tried to keep her head above water, but the water kept rising. And then one afternoon, she called me, and her voice was different. Small. She told me her landlord had given her the final notice, 2 weeks to be out and nowhere to go. No family close enough, no savings left, nothing. I didn't even think about it. I want you to understand that. I didn't sit down and weigh the pros and cons. My oldest friend in the world was about to be out on the street, and I had a spare room. So I said, "Come stay with us, just until you get back on your feet." And she cried, and she thanked me, and she said she'd never forget it. Robert's reaction was the one honest, normal thing in this whole story, and I thought about it a lot since. When I told him that night, he didn't just wave it off. He put his fork down and asked, "How long are we talking?" Not cruel, just a man asking a fair question about a third person moving into his house. I told him I didn't know. A few weeks, maybe a couple months, just until she found work. He thought about it, and then he nodded and said, "Okay, if she's family to you, she's family." I remember thinking that was such a good man thing to say. I remember being proud of him. Monica moved in on a Saturday in early spring. She didn't have much, a few suitcases, some boxes, a lamp she couldn't part with. We set her up in the guest room down the hall, and I stood in the driveway watching her carry those boxes in, and I thought, this is what family does. This is what love looks like. I felt good about myself. I felt like the person I always wanted to be.
Okay, hold on. I have to pause here for a second. Because right now, what she did, that's a good person. She opened her home to a friend with nowhere to go. Most people wouldn't do that. And I know a lot of you are already sitting there going, no, don't do it. But be honest. If it was your best friend of 30 years out on the street, could you really say no? I don't think I could either.
And for that first month, honestly, it was great. I want to be clear about this because it's the part that makes the rest so hard to carry. That first month was one of the nicer stretches of my whole marriage. Monica was a dream to live with. She kept her space neat. She did dishes without being asked. She'd have coffee ready when I stumbled into the kitchen half asleep, and we'd sit at the table before Robert got up and just talk. Girl stuff. The kind of easy, silly conversation you can only have with someone who's known you your entire life. For those quiet mornings, it felt like being 19 again, before life got heavy. And she was good to my marriage. That's what kills me now. She'd tell me how lucky I was to have Robert. She'd say, "You two are the real deal, you know that?" One night after dinner, when Robert was out mowing the lawn, she looked out the window at him and said, "Kathy, if I ever find a guy who looks at me the way he looks at you, I'll know I made it." I laughed. I actually reached over and squeezed her hand. I thought, my best friend loves my husband like a brother. How lucky am I? How lucky are we all? And she was trying too. She wasn't just parked in my guest room. She was applying for jobs constantly, sending out resumes at the kitchen table, driving to interviews in a blazer she borrowed from me. Some days she'd come home deflated because it didn't go anywhere. Then she landed a part-time thing at a garden center just to have something coming in, and she was so proud of it. She'd talk about saving up first and last month's rent, about how she'd be out of our hair by summer, about how she'd pay me back every dime. I kept telling her there was no rush. I meant it. I liked having her there. So you see, I wasn't watching for anything. Why would I be? Everything was good. Everything was warm. That's exactly why I missed it for so long. The first time I noticed something, I was so sure I'd invented it that I felt embarrassed. It was maybe 5 or 6 weeks in. We were all in the kitchen after dinner, and Robert made one of his dumb jokes, the kind he always makes, and Monica laughed way too hard, longer than the joke deserved. And then she put her hand on his arm while she laughed, just for a second, and he held her eyes a beat too long before he looked away. It was nothing. It was completely nothing. People touch each other's arms. People laugh at jokes. I finished loading the dishwasher and went to bed and told myself I was tired.
See, this is the part that gets me. Because she felt it. Right there, that little moment, her gut already knew something was off. But look what she does. She talks herself out of it. And honestly, we all do this. When it's someone we love, we don't want to see it, so we explain it away. I want you to remember that feeling she just had, because she was right. Let me know in the comments, have you ever felt something like that and ignored it? Be honest.
But once you notice a thing, you can't unnotice it. Over the next couple of weeks, I started catching more of it, and it was always small enough to explain away. That's the thing about it. It was never anything I could point to. They had little inside jokes I wasn't part of. She'd tease him and he'd grin like a teenager. When they passed each other in the hallway, they'd stand a little too close, and neither one stepped back. One evening, I came into the living room and they went quiet, just for half a second, the way people do when they've been talking about something they don't want you to walk in on. I stood there, holding a laundry basket, and my stomach did this slow, sick turn. And every single time, I explained it away. Monica was going through the worst period of her life, I told myself, and Robert was just being kind to her, because that's what I'd asked him to do. And Monica was clinging to whatever warmth she could find, because her whole world had collapsed. That's all it was. Two people leaning on each other in a hard time. And me, the tired, insecure wife, twisting something innocent into something ugly. I'm good at that. I've always been good at explaining away the things I don't want to be true. But it didn't stop. And by about the 2-month mark, I couldn't carry it alone anymore. So I did something I'm still not sure was brave or just stupid. I talked to Monica about it. Not Robert. Monica. We were folding laundry together in the living room, just the two of us, and she looked over at me and said, "Hey, you've seemed kind of far away lately. Are we okay? Did I overstay?" And her face was so open, so worried, that it just came out of me. I said, "Can I tell you something embarrassing? And you have to promise not to laugh at me." She said, "Of course." And I said, "Sometimes lately I get this crazy feeling, like maybe Robert likes having you around a little too much. It's stupid, I know it's stupid." And Monica put down the shirt she was folding, and she came over and she hugged me. She actually hugged me. And she pulled back and held my shoulders and looked me right in the eyes and said, "Kathy, are you serious? He's your husband. You're my sister. There is nothing on this earth that could ever make me do something to hurt you. I would rather sleep in my car than let you feel that way for one more second." And I cried, out of relief and shame. I felt so guilty for even thinking it that I apologized to her. I apologized to her. I've replayed that hug about 1,000 times.
Man, that one hurts. Because that hug felt real. She looked her in the eyes and called her her sister. And Kathy actually apologized. She felt guilty for even suspecting it. That's how deep the trust was. That's what makes this so much worse than just cheating. This wasn't a stranger. This was the one person she thought would never lie to her face. Just sit with that for a second.
But I still couldn't fully shake it. So a few nights later, I asked Robert too. It was late, lights off, both of us on our own sides of the bed. And in the dark, where I couldn't see his face and he couldn't see mine, I finally said it. "Robert, can I ask you something and you won't get mad?" He mumbled, "Okay." And I said, "Is there anything going on with you and Monica? Because sometimes it feels like there's this thing between you two. And I feel crazy even saying it. Please, just be honest with me." There was a pause, just a couple of seconds. I've replayed that pause 1,000 times too, because now I know what was happening inside it. He was deciding what to say, and then he reached over and pulled me into him, gentle, and he said, "Kathy, no, absolutely not. Monica is practically family. She's your best friend. I would never, ever do that to you. Come here. You've got nothing to worry about." Not defensive, not annoyed, just warm and certain and kind. Exactly the way you'd want the man you love to answer. And I believed him. God help me. I wanted to believe him so badly that I did. I let his arm around me feel like proof. And then, over the next 2 weeks, they gave me every reason to think I'd made the whole thing up. Because after that night, Robert pulled back from Monica, noticeably. He stopped hanging around the kitchen when she was in it. He'd say a quick hello and disappear into the garage. And Monica actually came to me one afternoon, looking hurt, and asked, "Hey, is Robert upset with me? He's been kind of cold lately. Did I do something wrong?" And I remember the wave of guilt that hit me, because I thought, that's my fault. I made him self-conscious with my crazy suspicions. And now he's overcorrecting, and poor Monica feels it. "See," I told myself. "See, you paranoid idiot. There was never anything there. You almost blew up your marriage and your friendship over a feeling." So I let it go. Completely. For about 2 weeks, I felt lighter than I had in a month. I thought we'd come through the hard part. That's the cruelest trick of the whole thing. They didn't get careless. They got careful. By now, Monica had been living with us for close to 3 months. The day it ended was a Thursday. I know it was a Thursday because our last patient of the afternoon, a Mrs. Alvarez, called and canceled her 4 o'clock, and with nothing else on the books, my boss told me to just head home early. It was such a small, ordinary thing, a canceled appointment. I stopped at the store on the way because if I was getting home early, I figured I'd actually make dinner for once. I picked up a rotisserie chicken, still warm through the plastic, and I stood in the aisle for a second, genuinely trying to decide between green beans and corn. That's the thought that was in my head as I pulled into the driveway. Green beans or corn? Both their cars were in the driveway. That wasn't strange. Robert's shift ended early on Thursdays, and Monica's garden center closed at 3. I came in through the side door and set the chicken on the counter, and I noticed the little things before I understood them. The TV was off, which was strange, because Robert always had a game or the news going. Monica's purse was on the kitchen chair. Robert's keys and phone were on the counter right in front of me. Both of them home. And the house completely, unnaturally silent. Then I heard Robert's voice, low, coming from down the hall. From our bedroom, too quiet for me to make out the words. And then I heard Monica laugh. I want to tell you I stormed down that hall. I didn't. I walked, one slow step at a time, my heart slamming so hard I could feel it in my throat. Because some part of me already knew, and that part of me was begging me to stop, to turn around, to keep the life I still had for just a few more seconds.
Okay, I genuinely don't know if I could open that door. Part of you already knows what's on the other side, right? And once you see it, you can never unsee it. Your whole life splits into before and after. I'm not gonna lie, my heart is pounding just reading this. If you're feeling it too, drop a like so I know I'm not the only one. All right, let's see what she saw.
But I opened the door, and there they were, in our bed, my husband and my best friend of 30 years. I'm not going to describe it. I don't need to, and I won't live in that moment any longer than I already have. Just know there was no confusion this time. Nothing to misread, nothing to explain away. It was exactly what it looked like. The two people I trusted most in this world, in the bed I slept in every night, in the home I had opened out of nothing but love. What I remember most is the silence, that frozen half-second where all three of us just looked at each other. And then Robert scrambled up saying my name. "Kathy, Kathy, please, just let me explain." And Monica pulled the sheet up to her chin and said, so quietly, "Kathy, I'm sorry." and I heard my own voice come out flat and cold and strange, and all I said to her was, "Don't, don't say my name." Something in me had gone cold, not hot. I expected to scream, and I did scream, but underneath it there was this awful, quiet clarity, a voice in my head that just kept saying, "There it is. There's the truth you asked for. There's the truth they both looked you in the eye and swore was a lie." I told them to get out, both of them. I said it once, quiet, and then I said it again, screaming. I don't remember all of it. I remember dragging Monica's suitcase out into the hall. I remember Robert following me around the house, saying he was sorry, saying it wasn't supposed to happen, and every word made me sicker because he'd had his chance to tell me the truth. In this bed, in the dark, 2 weeks earlier, and instead he'd pulled me close and told me I had nothing to worry about. I made them both leave that night. My oldest friend and my husband, out the same door. I stood in the driveway shaking while they went, and then I came back inside and sat down on the kitchen floor, and the rotisserie chicken sat there going cold on the counter above me. And I don't think I moved for a very long time. For 3 days, I barely left the house. I didn't cry the way you'd think. Mostly, I just sat. On Monday morning, I called an attorney. That was about 2 months ago now. Robert tried to reach out a few times at first, long messages. He wanted me to understand that they never planned it, that it just happened slowly, over the weeks, without either of them deciding to. And I remember reading that one line, "It just happened slowly," and feeling like the floor dropped out again. Because somehow, that hurt more than if you told me it happened once, in a single, terrible mistake. Slowly meant it had been growing right in front of me. Slowly meant it had been happening under my own roof, at my own table, the whole time. Monica wrote to me too, more than once. The last message she sent started with, "I know I have no right to ask you to read this." I didn't read the rest. I deleted it. And then I sat there and thought about the fact that she knew. She knew how much I wanted a baby, how much I'd begged Robert for one, how much of my heart was tied up in that. She had sat on my couch and held my hand while I cried about it. She knew the softest, most broken part of my marriage, and she stepped into it anyway. People ask me if I'm okay, and I tell them I'm getting there. But I'm not the woman I was before I opened that bedroom door. I used to trust easily. I used to see the best in people. I opened my home to a friend in need without a second thought, because I believed that's what love was. There's a careful, guarded thing living inside me now, and I don't know if it ever leaves. I still think about the day Monica stood in my driveway with those boxes, and that lamp she couldn't part with. I opened the door because she was my oldest friend in the world, and she had nowhere else to go. The hardest part isn't that my husband chose her. It's that I was the one who opened the door and told her she could stay.
And that's where she leaves it. I was the one who opened the door. That line's going to stay with me for a while. Here's what I keep coming back to. She didn't do a single thing wrong. She was kind, she was loyal, she trusted the two people you're supposed to be able to trust the most. And that's the scary part, isn't it? Sometimes it's not the strangers you have to watch. It's the ones already inside the house. So let me ask you straight up. Would you have let Monica stay? And that night at the door, would you have opened it or walked away? Tell me down in the comments. I read every single one. And listen, if this story hit you, do me one favor. Hit that like button and subscribe if you're new here. The channel's going through a rough stretch right now, and honestly, that tiny click does more than you know. It's what keeps these stories going. Thank you for being here. I mean that. I'll see you in the next one.